Hi.
Hang on one second. I'm trying to get the settings. Hi.
Hi. Can you hear
Okay, I'm
me?
gonna have to turn your volume up. How's that?
It's
Can you hear
perfect.
me?
Yeah, can you hear? Can you hear me?
Yes. Do you need me to bring the camera closer?
No, not at all. How are you?
No, I'm good. Here, hang on one second. Let me just. Here we go. All right. That's a little bit better. Okay. I think we got it. Hi, Sean. How are you?
I'm great, and you?
Good. What time is it where you are?
It's almost 7 p.m. in Belgium.
Ah,
Are you in Los Angeles?
I am. I am.
So it's kind of early where you are.
It's a little early, but not bad. It's like 9:45. Yeah, yeah. So I have a bit of time where I know we won't be interrupted, but just so you know, I have a dog and my husband has to take her out, and we have a security alarm, so it goes beep 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 when they leave. So every once in a while you'll hear some sounds. If you need to stop and pick up after that or edit or whatever, just let me know. In case
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
yeah.
So, how are you living this special year?
It is a special year, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, we've been very fortunate because I have a family home in the mountains and woods of Oregon. So in April, after it looked like this was going to start to continue for quite a while and that the industry wasn't picking back up again readily, we went up to my home in Oregon. See, that's the beat. And and so we spent the summer in the woods writing, and I started baking sourdough bread, which I've never done from scratch before, and hiking, and we were able to get outside, whereas in
Yeah.
Los Angeles we live in a very busy area, and walking out the front door you're immediately surrounded by people. So I feel really lucky that we were able to be up there for a lot of it. And then I ended up working on Supergirl,
Yeah.
flying to Canada during that time. So we were a little closer to Canada by being in Oregon. So I didn't have to spend much time on a plane.
So, during quarantine, you work on Supergirl. Is that it?
Yes. I mean, we
Okay.
weren't officially quarantined anymore, but during this COVID crisis. So
Okay.
we started back up.
So, thank you for this interview. By the way, I'm so excited to talk to you. You have
Me
an
too.
amazing resume. You're blessed by many great roles in popular TV shows, Desperate Housewives, The Android, Supergirl, and 13 Reasons Why. And I would like to start this interview by talking about 13 Reasons Why because this is a very important show. It has a huge impact on my generation, at least. But however, that show had, multiple criticism, and I would like to know if you ever doubted about your involvement in the show because of what you were reading, because of what people thought about it.
You know, that's a really good question, Jean. I think whenever there's controversy around any artistic endeavor, it usually means that there are important subjects that are being tackled.
Yeah.
And I know Brian Yorkie, who was the originator and creator of the series, took these subjects very seriously. And he has kind of a finger on the pulse of what's going on with youth and anxiety and depression and what's going on in the world of the young mind and how to navigate all of the challenges of the complexity of life right now. You know, it's not the same world I certainly grew up in. It's not as innocent. There's a lot more pressure because of social media.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot more that young minds and hearts have to navigate now. And I think he handled it as responsibly and creatively as anyone could have. And I think these important subjects, once they're brought to light, it's the conversations that occur from them, whether they're controversial conversations or whether they're conversations about whether it's valuable or not. All of the conversation is the purpose.
Yeah.
Because it's the shame and the darkness and the hiding from what we're feeling that causes people to do things that they would regret later. And so when you bring these dark feelings to light and you talk about them, all of a sudden kids can go, oh, wait, I'm not the only one feeling this. Everyone else is going through this too. Oh my gosh. And then they get to actually ask for help. Then they get to actually reach out. You know, at the end of 13 Reasons Why, we did a scholarship program and we gave away, well, not we, but Netflix gave a scholarship to kids who had struggled and who had put focus on mental wellness during their high school years. And they applied for scholarship for college. And reading these essays about what these kids had to grapple with emotionally in their own families, in their own schools, in their own towns was so inspiring to me. And my dad used to say, you don't get good steel out of a cold fire. I don't know, have you ever heard that phrase?
No.
Okay, well, what it means is life's challenges actually make you stronger and more
Yeah.
resilient. And so, entertainment is one thing. There's a lot of romantic comedies out there, but people who have the courage to grapple with these subjects and bring them to light, I think should always be celebrated because I think it was done very responsibly.
Yeah. And I think bullying and suicide is a topic that stayed way too long in the wardrobe. And I feel like often we do not like to talk about what's negative because in a ways we're not allowing ourselves to talk about it because of the society we're living in, you know, because we are being told to be strong and all that stuff, and that a TV show is supposed to entertain us and not make us think and not to be something to discuss about. And I I'm kind of sure that's why all people aren't comfortable with 13 Reasons Why, is that because the show is making them think.
And can
Um,
feel about things that are uncomfortable.
yeah,
I don't know, do you know an author named Brene Brown? Have you ever
no,
heard her work?
no,
She's an American author and researcher and social worker. And she talks about the fact that when we go into our vulnerability, the places that are sticky, that don't feel good, that's when we can start to become more wholehearted. And I think for myself, being human as an actor, you have to explore all of your humanity. It's not just the bright side. You have to be willing to go to the dark in order to have the light have balance. And I think what she has kind of used in her work is that vulnerability is your strength.
yeah,
When you can go to those dark places and be curious and embrace that part of yourself, then you become more whole. It's the covering up and the hiding that actually makes you weaker and
yeah.
makes you not able to be whole. And so I do disagree with you a little bit. I don't think television shows are only for our entertainment.
No,
I
I
think
do not think. What?
because I
Sorry.
thought that's what you said.
No, I think that's what people have in mind. But I like a good show when it's a show that's making me think about myself and the world and all that stuff.
Right, right. Well, I think it can do both. And I think it did accomplish both. I think it was very entertaining. And I
Yeah.
think at the same time, it was very deep and topical. So I feel very proud to be part of the show. And I'm also very proud that I got to direct 2 episodes. I don't know if you saw season 4, but I
Not yet.
directed episode, is it 4 and 5? 5 and 6. I directed episode 5 and 6. Please watch it. I'm so proud of the
I
work
will.
my actors did. And I can't wait to get behind the camera again.
Was it the first time for you to direct something?
No, I had directed a short film that actually won another award today. I just got an email saying it had won the Olympus Award. I-
Congratulations.
Thank you. My husband wrote a short film based on a really interesting article he had read in the New York Times years and years ago about how when soldiers go off to war, especially during the Iran-Iraq,
Yeah.
that battle. Um, they were being redeployed over and over and over again, and they were missing out on their young children at home. And when they'd come back, their children didn't recognize them because the years had gone by, and when kids are small, they grow very quickly, but their memories aren't, that great. And
Yeah.
so they devised a program to support the families at home by giving a life-size cutout of their father, husband, wife, whoever was deployed, so that the kids at the table, at the kitchen table, could engage with mom or dad's image, so that when they came off the plane and hit the tarmac, the kids would go running to them saying, "Daddy, Daddy," or "Mom," or whatever it was. And so we did kind of a surreal little piece about the psychological nature of one housewife who was an army wife, and her relationship with her cutout of her husband. And it was exploration of mental illness. It was an exploration of loss and grief. It was an
Yeah.
exploration of how to cope with the challenges of families at home who are separated from their loved ones from long periods of time, who go through traumatic events. It was a small little surreal piece that hit a particular note that I think people really responded to.
Uh, where can we watch it?
I have a link to it. I'm happy to send you.
Yeah, sure.
I don't have any place, kind of, I can give you a link that you can attach to your interview if people want to watch it.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
After they watch this.
Yeah, totally.
I'm really proud of it. And Scotty Thompson played the wife, and she had played my daughter in a movie that I did with her on HBO. My husband wrote the film. Friends of mine helped. It was a project of love, and I actually got 13 Reasons Why while I was filming that.
Yeah,
So
it sounds pretty good. I would love to watch it, and so I will remind you after the interview to, send me the link so I can share it with people.
I'll send it to my manager, and she can send it on to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Speaking of loss in your career, you had to say goodbye to characters, uh, for example, to Nia or Marielis. And I was wondering, what's the impact on you to kill your character? Because, I mean, you give life to them. You're spending a lot of time with them, and so I guess you get attached to them, and so it must be kind of difficult to end their journey so tragically.
It's funny because there was a period of time where I was playing a lot of dead characters. I played a dead character on Everwood with Treat Williams as Julia Brown, Mary Alice, you're right, Naya, Queen Naya for the 100. And I started feeling like, what is it about me where everybody wants to kill me, and so I actually vowed that I didn't want to die anymore. But I think there's something about being able to play something in a flashback, where there's an idyllic kind of retelling of stories of emotional unraveling of something that you can
Yeah.
tell, because you can unpack it in reverse. So often we only go forward in our storytelling, but when you're a dead character, you have this wonderful device where you can go back and keep digging that character a little deeper and deeper and deeper, and learning more about them as the series goes on.
Yeah.
And so in a weird way, it was like discovering who I was as I went on, where normally you develop the character and you come in fully formed into a role, especially film, because you have the entirety of the film in front of you. And so you can build that character because you know where they need to go. It's a little trickier in reverse, I have to say, because a lot of times the writing, especially with Desperate Housewives, Mark Cherry would give me something and I'd go, oh my gosh, I wish I would have known that when we shot the pilot. I could have added that layer into my performance there. So it's a little challenging, but at the same time, it keeps it fresh as an actor because you're constantly being surprised by your own character.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy playing characters that aren't dead, anymore because I feel like I have a little bit more control over what happens to them and how to portray that. Um, and there is a sadness, about dying, especially when you take your own life on
Yeah.
film. The emotion that comes up because you have to go to that place where someone would be in that state, and it's deeply affecting. It took me a while to shake that off a little bit.
And so what's the work you are doing to yourself, to be there while shooting the scene, the death scene, but not be too much there to protect yourself, uh, because like you said, at that scene where Mary-Liz take her own life, it's so heavy, and so you're
Mhm.
putting yourself in some bad energy. So yeah, what's the process for you?
It's interesting because I think every actor has their own process. First of
Yeah,
all, no process is the same. Everyone has their own way in. There's certain tools and techniques, certainly, that we all learn as actors. It is a craft. It's like in England, the actors go through a process of education, and it's a craft like plumbing. You hire an actor, you're going to get somebody who knows what they're doing. And in America, you don't have that same kind of uniform approach to education around acting unless you're going through an MFA program. And luckily I did go through a really wonderful program uh, in my earlier years in college. And then of course, you continue to study and take classes and everything else. But you have to be willing to go to those places that are dark, and you have to have the wherewithal to get yourself back out. And luckily for me, in addition to acting, I also happen to teach yoga,
yeah,
and also I'm a parent. And so the more I've studied about kind of the development of the brain and the emotional life of a child, as well as kind of the spiritual life of a human being, you start to realize that we're all wired very similarly in our neuropsychology. And the endocrine system, which is part of how we think, how we feel, and how our body responds to stress, is something that we can actually control. And so what I learned through yoga is if I can control my breath in a certain way, I can either come out of a state of panic, depression, difficulty by controlling my breath and calming my body back down again, or I can actually agitate my body and my emotions and my thoughts by how I breathe. So I actually did a TEDx talk about this. And so this is my tool that I kind of use. Every actor is different. And, we live truthfully in imaginary circumstances. But in order to take care of myself, after I go there, I have to actually kind of put the genie back in the bottle,
yeah,
because otherwise you can go into these dark places. I remember season 2 of Dallas, Anne Ewing was in a very dark place the entire season. And my husband said, honey, you were depressed all the time. It's like, I know, because I'm living with this angst of the loss of my daughter and then finding her and then being rejected. And you can't help but take that on in your real life because you don't know when they're going to call you the next week to work. So you kind of have to stew in it a little bit. And
yeah,
I know Matthew McConaughey, for instance, when he was doing Dallas Buyers Club, you become that person. You have to emotionally throw yourself into that. The key is, can you get yourself back out? And how do you do that? So that's the magic of what we do. It's a little bit of a magic trick.
and about mental health, I think it's something important for you because you're teaching yoga. I don't know if it's related, but and we don't talk a lot about it. At least in Belgium, we don't talk a lot about it. But it's something that's really present. There is a huge pressure on everybody. Some are managing it well, but others, but most of us have anxiety attacks. And how do you deal with mental health? And what's the tips you would like to share with people?
Wow, that's a big question, because there's so much in that. You know, Chris Wood, who played Mon-El in Supergirl, and we talked about mental health a lot, and he actually developed a company, an outreach called I Don't Mind,
Yeah.
talking about mental health. And if anybody wants to look on it on Instagram, I think it's just I Don't Mind, and you can hashtag I Don't Mind and find
Okay.
that company. But I think, you know, there are, I think there's more mental illness in the world than we know. And I think certainly in America, we have a lot more than we have the capacity to deal with. I think COVID has actually shined a light or shown a light
Yeah.
on mental illness, because I think um, being kind of contained within your own house and not being able to engage socially with people in normal ways has really kind of turned up the volume on people who may not be um, able to cope as well. Um, you know, I've been very fortunate because my parents were really educated people. My dad had a degree in psychology and was a college counselor, and had tools available to him from people like Maslow and self-actualization. My mother was very interested in young childhood education and how to deal with kids with their emotional life. And so she read a lot from Maria Montessori. And so she gave me tools as a young person. So I feel very grateful that I had parents who knew how to manage their thoughts and feelings in a responsible way. Not all families have that foundation. And so there's a lot of hurt and harm that happen when you're developing as a young child that then you take into adulthood.
Yeah.
And you don't have the tools to manage the stress as an adult because you had. Did you freeze?
Yeah. I think it was me.
Okay. Because it said, you're the host now. I'm like, oh, I'm hosting. So, Jean, tell me about your family.
Uh,
So where did we leave off
uh, you were talking
last?
about the a book, I think. Your
Was I
mom
talking
was.
about my mother's book,
Yeah.
the Maria
Yeah.
Montessori book?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I said was that I feel very grateful because both my parents were very interested in emotional and mental health. My dad was he had a degree in psychology,
Yeah.
a master's in psychology, and my mother was very interested in early childhood education and how to cope with the emotional life of children. So as growing up, I had two very active parents who believed in giving their children the tools to cope with life, because life is challenging.
Yeah. Sure.
And what I was saying is not everyone has those parents. And so I feel very blessed that I had a foundation of wellness to come from. And oftentimes, as children, we have early childhood wounds, emotional wounds that never get addressed, that then resurface in adulthood. And we have to try to work through them because they're now part of our hardwiring of how we see the world. And so, seeking help, you know, working with a cognitive behavioral psychologist, or calling on a hotline if you're having anxiety and you don't know how to deal with it. Seeking help is the most important thing, not to be alone with it, because alone we can only see and think what we see and think and feel. But once we have a mirror, someone else outside of us to say, well, let's take a look at that. Maybe that's not correct, or maybe there's a different way to see this, or maybe let's feel what you're feeling, but it's not permanent. You know,
Yeah.
this is not how it's always going to be, because the human condition is constantly changing, but we do have patterns, and we have repetitive patterns because that's neural plasticity, right? Our brain keeps firing in the same way it normally does because that's what kept us safe, or that's what got us out of a negative situation. And so we keep going down these pathways that might not actually be the healthiest pathways. And so they've been discovering lately, with not only the way the brain works and fires, that we can actually change the way we think and feel, but also that there's another thing that's working in the human condition, and that's called epigenetics. And that's what I started to talk about when we got interrupted by the computer. And epigenetics is a study now on how we not only get our eye color and hair color from our parents, but we also inherit their trauma,
Yeah.
their emotional
Sure.
trauma. So families keep perpetuating these patterns of either illness or suicide or, anxiety, because that's how we're hardwired in our DNA. But it doesn't mean that's how we have to continue. And it's actually in working with people who understand how these emotional traps are wired in us that can untrap us from those patterns. And so there's this whole thing called family constellation therapy that Mark Willin has brought to the foreground in a book called It Didn't Start With You, How to Heal Inherited Family Trauma.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend and her husband do this work. So I've been kind of on the front doorstep of watching them help so many people face their family's dark patterns and shame and history and understand it more holistically so that they can metabolize it. Because like food, we take in food and then we metabolize it. It gives us energy and then we release what doesn't work for us. Unfortunately, sometimes with emotions, we take those in and then they get stuck. And then we make them part of ourselves, but we can release those as well if we have the tools. So that's a long answer to what to do about it. But there's a lot more out there, but people have to be willing to seek help because there is
Yeah.
help available.
Yeah. One thing that's working with me is that I'm doing the things that's stressing me out. And I'm like picturing myself climbing a ladder, And so step by step, and once I did a few times, I'm not stressed anymore by the thing I was stressed at the beginning. And so, yeah, I'm reaching out another level because when I was 14, I was a total mess. I had anxiety attacks all the times. And
Mhm.
it's my mom who passed this to me.
Uh-huh.
And
The genetics.
and I decided I didn't want that in my life. I just wanted to live my life as I wanted to, but because sometimes, like you said, people are trapped.
Mhm.
And my mother was an example for me because she's still trapped. And it's sad, but I was looking at her and I used to tell to myself that I didn't want to end up like her. I love her, but yeah, she's kind of trapped.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And out
so
of loyalty you could have had you not had the vision to go, no, this is not, I don't have to repeat this pattern.
yeah, exactly. So that's what's helping me in life. So
Good.
yeah.
So what do you do to manage that anxiety for yourself?
Well, like I said, I'm doing what's stressing me out. But otherwise, I have a medication, but I'm not using. I'm using it only if it's really unbearable because I don't want to, starting to take medication every day. So
Right. You don't
it's
want to
really
punish
a
yourself.
help when I really, really need it, and
Right.
that's all I do.
Mhm.
And music can help too. Music and a TV show.
Yeah. Yeah. Music actually is a wonderful
Yeah.
mood alterer because it can take you out. And that's why, film is so impactful because it's a sound and visual medium and it can manipulate our emotions to feel and be taken on a ride. So you can actually lift yourself out of a anxiety attack or depression through music because it's vibration.
Yeah.
It's actually affecting our physiology, that vibration. So have you ever heard of Dr. Emoto?
No. No, no.
So there's this doctor that did these tests on cells, on water cells. And what he did was he took a water cell and then played different music to that cell and then froze it and took an image of it. And then you can see with like hard rock or classical music the difference of how that water cell forms. um, I've got somebody who's calling and I have a feeling it's the tow truck for my car because my car needs to be towed today. There's so much going on. But anyway, he was able to show you that classical music creates these beautiful snowflake kind of uniform, beautiful geometric designs, whereas like hard rock or hip hop or any of the darker kind of music, heavy metal, all of the cells were very fragmented and difficult. I'm going to have to answer this. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
no worries.
Wait, hang on. Hello? Yes. Hi. Uh-huh. Okay. So because I was in Oregon, I have an electric car, and because I was in Oregon, the battery died. And so when I came home to try to turn on the car, it was completely dead because I'd been gone for so many months. Even though I had it plugged in, the battery just died. So now I've had tow truck people try to take my car for the last 4 days, and they've had a hard time because it's sandwiched in my garage and it's narrow, and they've got to put it on a flatbed because, anyway. So anyway, these molecules, these cells, you could see how impactful music is on these cells. And when you think about it, the human body is mostly water. So
Yeah.
music has a very big impact on us and how we organize our emotional life. And so, you know, people who listen to dark music all the time are angry. Well, yeah, what are you listening to? You know, it's affecting you. So anyway,
I
enough of
didn't
my.
know about that. It's really
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
I'm learning a lot with you today.
Oh, good. And also words. And see, this is the thing, you know, they say that words are also, because they're spoken, have a vibration. So words like love has a certain resonance, or words like hate or anger have certain resonance. He did that with the water crystals as well. Love was the most beautiful crystal, and hate or Hitler, ooh, no, bad crystals. So interesting. You know,
Yeah,
there's a
really
lot more
interesting.
to us as human beings than meets the eye.
And I have one last question, and I think
Okay.
we're gonna finish in time before the people come for your car.
Okay. See, this is life. It never stops.
Yeah. So I'm asking this question to every actor, actresses I talk to. You have, in your career, you have answered to a lot of questions, and it's often work related, you know. And I wanted to know, because you're way more than an actress, if you could be a journalist and ask a question to yourself, something you want to share with people, what would it be?
Oh, what will be the most important thing you did in your life at the very end of your life and you look back? What meant the most to you? And I can't answer that question because I'm not there yet. But it helps me. It helps me govern what I choose to do in my life. Because a friend of mine, her mother just passed away, and I realize how short life is, and that
Yeah,
we get
sure.
trapped in all these things to do. But a friend of mine recently said, you know, when someone stands and eulogizes someone, the list of their accomplishments, whether they won a Nobel Peace Prize or an Academy Award or whatever it is very short. But where people get emotional is when they start to talk about what that person loved. And
Yeah.
so I try to organize, because we all want to achieve, like I want to achieve amazing things still. I think my best work is ahead of me. But if I get trapped in the accomplishments, I forget the most important thing is to love, and to continue to find ways to love myself, to love others, to love my dog, to love my family, to love humanity and all of its flaws. That to me is the most important thing.
It's beautiful. Um, I'm speechless. Thank you so much for this interview. I'm so grateful for the time you gave me and all the actors, actresses I talked to. This is such a nice gesture, you know, and yeah.
I have to say, I watched some of your interviews, and who you are is so lovely. I was looking forward to talking to you. So
Thank you
thank you
so
for
much.
having me.
Thank you
Okay,
so
I have
much.
to go deal with my car now.
Yeah.
I'm
Have a
gonna start
nice
reading, okay?
okay. Have a nice day.
You too. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye, guys. I hope you're doing great today. And I hope you like this interview. This was very special. Um, it was a really inspiring conversation with Brenda Strong. And I just want you to know, if you're not feeling well, if you're stressed, if you're dealing with a lot of anxiety and you want to talk about it, please feel free to DM me on Instagram. I will reply to you for sure. And if you want to share your journey with anxiety and your tips, feel free to do it in the comments or in Instagram. I would love to read about it. And I think people can be inspired by your journey, and your tips can be useful for some people. So please do it if you want to. And so, yeah, I'm going to see you next Monday with a whole new interview. And my guest will be Luca Peros from La Casa de Papel and Money Heist. I can't wait to share it with you. And yeah, I hope to see you all there. And I'm wishing you a great week. Okay, bye. See you next Monday.